I guess mentioned respect the funnel, and I think that was a good quote because, um, and just coming back to this, like if anyone listening in right now, if you've got an e-commerce store, um, that's a really great way to start, because it's, I guess, with the funnel, it's something which you can show to anybody and they would get it. It's not some
Yeah.
fancy report or anything like that. It's literally just telling you, like, do you segment the funnel, or are there any like major steps that like you define? So for instance, how do you think of the funnel? Like, is it like homepage, category page, product page? Is it that detailed, or is it like landing page to cart to, how do you structure it normally?
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I think segmenting is critical. You had a example earlier about the average conversion rate and going down from month to month.
Yeah.
There's something, there's a phrase out there which I can't remember who said this. Averages lie, but segments don't. So I think even a
I like
funnel
that.
as a whole
Mhm.
can lie, because it's just the average of the entire site.
Yeah.
So yes, in our case, we want to segment as much as possible, and really we're looking for outliers. So if your average conversion rate in the funnel is 2%, we want to see any segment that's doing better than that. So landing pages, marketing sources like marketing campaign sources, technology. Is there a difference between desktop, mobile, and tablet the same? Geographic might be relevant depending on who you serve and where you go. Maybe product type, and so on. There's probably maybe about 5 or 6 major segments that we can start to look at,
Right.
and try to figure out where can we focus, right? Let's say you discover that your mobile conversion rate sucks compared to your desktop.
Sure.
That can be a bit tricky. That could be a major project to make sure your website is mobile friendly, if it's not already. So we may actually leave that behind and realize that we can make some improvements to our landing page, which might be easier to do. So we're also trying to gauge what's the difficulty of tackling a problem, and where can we make those big changes,
So I've
especially
seen
yeah.
So I've seen people do this thing where, because what you're really getting at is some kind of scoring prioritization, right? So
Yes.
what you're essentially saying is that, hey, like, go get your funnel, segment it, look for the outliers, and find. I mean, if it's 2%, which ones are 0.1% and which ones are 4%, right? Like, where are the crazy ones? And so I've seen people do this thing where, they see this data and then they list all kinds of projects that they can do, like for instance, make the mobile thing friendly, and then they score it based on like business value and like how difficult it is to do. Is that why you're getting at here?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. You might have seen frameworks like ICE, I think impact, confidence, and difficulty, how difficult it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just effectively a way to prioritize. Yeah, to prioritize how difficult is this change? Are we talking
Mm-hmm.
about a copy change or a complete redesign? What kind of impact could we really get? There's only so much you can improve certain aspects. So if you look at benchmarks, or sort of the best benchmarks in the industry, how much high could you be, compared to where you are, and then from there be able to prioritize. What's tricky about this, this is effectively where A/B testing comes in, and having a experimentation framework. I find most businesses of all sizes can run A/B tests. It's getting easier than ever to run A/B tests, but they really struggle with this prioritization aspect of things, and they sort of do it based on what they think might work, but it's all kind of very anecdote driven.
Right. And one of the things I guess is important when you're doing this prioritization is that you don't do it alone, right? Like you get your team together, because your marketing guy, like, everybody has their own biases. So if
Yeah.
you're like, I find, for instance, personally, I have this problem. So I'm the CTO of DataCube. So whenever I look at sort of like, 'cause we do very similar things, we're always trying to see how to improve the product. And I find that I'm constantly looking at technical ways to solve it, because that's where I approach it. Whereas my co-founder has a different bias. So I find like when I do this prioritization exercise, it's much better for me to sit with her and do it together, where then the score is like a little bit of a negotiation. It takes time,
Yeah.
But at least, and the other thing which I find that's really useful with that is that you get a much better buy-in to do it, because it doesn't matter how great your idea is, that if people don't believe that it's important, then it doesn't get done, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you could, as a small team, you could start simple. You could just get everyone to rank each idea on a score of 1 to 10 on how impactful they think they'll be and how long they'll take and so on. And then you average out the score and you find the ones that on average the team seems to decide as much as possible. That adds some democracy to the process.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think at some companies, or even most companies, the CEO will still have sort of like a final say on what
Yes.
actually gets to run. But at least you can get a sense of what the engineering team person or team feels like, or what the marketing person feels like, and then from there come up with your next 2 or 3 ideas that you want to work on.
Yeah, and hopefully you find something which you didn't consider, or like I was reading something. I don't even know if this is true, but it makes sense that it's true. Apparently, Amazon's one-click checkout idea came from an engineer. It wasn't from Jeff Bezos,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's like arguably made them a ton of money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think. I guess it comes down to the organization on how democratic you want to be, because the more democratic you are, where you fan out everything, the process does get a lot slower. So I guess you want to find that right balance. And I guess it doesn't help that everyone's sort of at home right now. So as many people as you can get on a Zoom call, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.